over at BangTheBook.com. We are your one-stop shop for sports betting news and information. Lots of stuff going on over there, to say the least. College basketball, college football, the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, all those other niche markets that are out there. Tons upon tons of stuff for you to check out over at the website. Make sure you give it a look. Make sure you support all the great, fine work that our very talented cast of writers is putting together. I've got thoughts on Baylor and Washington up in Anchorage, Alaska on the college basketball side. Also, make sure you're checking out my college basketball situational betting tips, as we've got a lot of interesting spots coming up here this weekend for these teams, especially these teams that are traveling all over the place here early on in the non-conference portion of the season. NBA and NHL situational betting tips. Obviously, my power ratings and some situational betting stuff for college football this weekend. Danny Vorgs' NFL power ratings, coverage of the Super Contest and the Circa Million. Very, very, very busy time of year. We're keeping track of all of it over at BangTheBook.com. Make sure you head on over to our Bang the Book YouTube page as well. I've got thoughts up on the Wisconsin and Oregon State game tonight. I've got thoughts for Saturday's LSU and Alabama game. And we got some NFL free pick videos from our good buddy Brian Blessing, who joins us every Tuesday here on Bang the Book Radio. Finally, as you know, this and every edition of Bang the Book Radio, presented by our friends over at DSI Sportsbook. BTB and the number 200 is that promo code. 100% deposit match bonus for the sportsbook. 100% deposit match bonus for the live casino at BetDSI. It's only a game until you bet it. All right, so we dig our teeth in here to Week 10 of the Westgate SuperContest, as well as Week 10 in the Circa Million. 3-2 showing for me last week, certainly much better than the 0-5 that I saddled myself with the previous week. Now 22-1 on the season. Our other entry, our BangTheBook.com entry in the Super Contest, 2-3, now 23-21-1. So the bragging rights there for that .com entry as opposed to my Bang the Book podcast entry. But you know what? Coming away with a 3-2 last week was a pretty good thing, because last week was an absolute disaster for the Super Contest field. 39.76%. So it was ugly, to say the least. Only 18 5-0 cards out of the 3,328 entrants. Not all of them still playing, of course, but a very rough week for a lot of people there in the Super Contest. And even with a sample size of almost 149,000 picks in the Super Contest, that 39.76% showing, still enough to lower the win rate almost more than a full percent last week to 48.94%. I believe it was 49.99 going into Week 9. So now the field, 48.94%, well below 50% here on the season. The top 5 consensus went 0-4-1 last week. The one push was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who should have covered if Seattle makes that field goal at the end of regulation. The Bucs do wind up covering there. Instead, Seattle gets a touchdown in overtime. Bucs wind up pushing the Super Contest number, losing for a lot of people out there in the betting market. So that was one that hurt a lot of people out there. Last week, the consensus 4-9-1, now 57-72-3 on the season. The top 5 consensus 21-23-1. So a lot of people having a lot of success here. If you've been fading the Super Contest consensus, we'll see if that winds up being the case here again for this week. Over in the Super Contest Gold, 41.87% last week, now 50.95% for the season. In the Circa Million, the third quarter has started. There were 28 5-0 entrants last week to start the third quarter. My entry went 3-2. I went with the same card I had in the Super Contest in the Circa Million. Now 21-23-1 for the season. Our BangTheBook.com-1 entry also went 3-2. Now 26-17-2 on the season. So a pretty good start there. 3.5 points off of the top 10. Last week, the Circa Million field 49.85% for the season, after going 42.29% in last week's action. The top 5 consensus 0-5 last week in the Circa Million. Now 20-23-2 on the season. The Circa consensus overall 69-64-1. What does all of this mean? Why do I update this every week? Because I think it's very, very interesting to see what a large sample size of people can do in the NFL. And again, obviously, this is only 85 picks in both contests. And, some people may have more, some people may have less over the course of the NFL season. But look, by and large, a lot of people long term are going to wind up flipping coins when it comes to betting on sports. They're going to be anywhere from 49 to 51%. And as we see here, that's about where both of these contest fields are. That's just how it's going to be. A very small percentage of people can win long term consistently and sustain it in this business. And when you kind of look at something like the Super Contest, yeah, it's a relatively small sample size of games with 85 picks. But again, we're talking about a sample size of almost 149,000 picks because of the number of entrants, and we're at 48.94%. So I just think it's very interesting to look at those types of things. Does it mean anything in the long, over the grand scheme of things? Probably not, but I still think it's pretty interesting to look at and sort of analyze here week after week on this Super Contest selection segment. All right, so as we take a look here at the line differences between the two contests, this is something I've been doing all year long here on the segment because I think this is very interesting as well. And in fact, there's one game that's been affected by a line move between the Super Contest and the Circa Million that I will have in the Super Contest, not in the Circa. That's the Kansas City Chiefs. They're a 3.5-point favorite in the Super Contest, the lines that come out on Wednesday evening. They're minus 5.5 in the Circa Million. Now, obviously, the only key number in there is 4, but 5 has become a more important number with missed extra points and stuff like that as well. But this line is up to 6 in the betting market. So with the 3.5 in the Super Contest, even though a lot of people are going to be on that game, I'm going to be as well. I'll talk a little bit more about that thought process here in a couple of minutes. The Giants are minus 2.5 in the Super Contest. They're minus 2 in the Circa. Packers minus 5 in the Super Contest. They're minus 5.5 in the Circa. And then the 49ers minus 6.5 in the Super Contest, minus 6 in the Circa. So nothing really around extremely important key numbers like 3 and 7, but still some pretty interesting differences here, as always, between the two contests. So we start with my picks here, beginning with number 3, the Kansas City Chiefs, minus 3.5. And again, this is relatively cut and dry. The line is up to 6 in the market. Anytime you're getting 2.5 points of line value in a contest like this, you have to really consider it. And for me, I'm not worried about going contrarian. I'm not worried about trying to catch up games on the field, stuff like that. I'm such a long shot to make the money at this point in time that I'm just worried about winners. I'm just worried about the bottom line for me, trying to get as good of a percentage as I can possibly get. So some people that are in the running for this, it would make sense for them to avoid the Chiefs, hope that Kansas City gets beat against the spread, and they wind up, it's almost like winning an extra game. When you've got a large percentage of the field on a side, you kind of hope that side loses. You hope you pick a winner in case you have to keep pace, but you hope that side loses because it's almost like a 2-game swing. Kind of some game theory that comes into play with this. But for me, given where I am right now, 500 through the first 9 weeks of the season, I'm such a long shot to make anything that I just want a good showing for this segment. I just want a good showing representing BangTheBook.com. So I'm not worried about the game theory side of this and about trying for that 2-game swing. I'm just going to go ahead and take Kansas City minus the 3.5 here. Again, that line up to 6 in the market. And look, there are reasons to like this game anyway. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, certainly with the line move that we've seen, it looks like he's going to be back in this one. And Kansas City played very well in his absence. And a lot of times when a star player like that goes out, you're just trying to keep pace. That's really what you want to end up doing here when you've got, 3 or 4 weeks where you're without one of your best players. Kansas City did that. The defense stepped up really nicely. They held Denver to 205 yards. Did give up 374 to Green Bay, but that's not bad. Gave up 308 to Minnesota last week. That's not bad at all. And Tennessee just doesn't look any better with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. I mean, maybe there's this illusion that they're a little bit more dimensional, being able to run the ball and throw the ball, but they can't even run the ball now. The last 5 games for Tennessee, 102 rushing yards, 39, 97, 72, 121 last week. Now, Tennessee did put up a lot of yards last week on Carolina, but Carolina built a big lead early in that game. They were just kind of looking to get rid of the clock. We even saw that there was a chance that the Panthers could have let Tennessee in the back door. Tennessee goes for the field goal to make it a one-score game, misses it. Carolina wins by 10. But that was a misleading box score because Carolina was up by so much that Tennessee was able to put some yardage up on the board. But again, this is a team that's built to run the football, and they have not done that well over the last 5 games here. So why would it be any different this week? They haven't been able to run on defenses that, aren't great. Some of them are okay. Some of them are better than others. But they haven't really had a whole lot of success running the football. And Kansas City's defense is getting better as the year goes along. And oftentimes you see that when you've got a very good coaching staff there. When you look at the Titans, Baker Mayfield, Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew, Matt Ryan, Josh Allen, Joe Flacco, Phillip Rivers, Jameis Winston, Kyle Allen. These guys are not Patrick Mahomes. They're not facing, Aaron Rodgers types or, Dak Prescott when Kellen Moore's allowed to call the plays. They're not facing Drew Brees. They're not facing Matt Ryan. They're facing a lot of, younger starters. And then even guys like Rivers and Ryan, they've kind of had skill position injuries and different stuff going on, offensive line problems for both of those guys. The Titans did get gashed by the run against the 2 most consistent offenses they played. Jameis Winston put up some yardage on them. I think Mahomes and the Chiefs have a lot of success here in this game. I think they have a newfound confidence with how they played in the absence of Pat Mahomes, and this defense has gotten much better as well. So even with the adjusted line value, I still like Kansas City. I may still end up on Kansas City in the Circa laying the 5.5 because it may not be a consensus play over in the Circa like it's going to be in the SuperContest. I think this handicap sets up well for the Chiefs. I'm not a believer in the Titans. So give me the Chiefs minus 3.5 here in the SuperContest. Again, that line value, though, playing a big part in the equation. Next up on my very likely picks list, the Chiefs are going to be a pick no matter what with that line value that's out there. But as far as the rest of these go, very likely picks and some leans here, recording as usual on Thursday evening. Number 12, the Atlanta Falcons are plus 13 against the New Orleans Saints. And I understand that there really aren't a ton of compelling reasons to back Atlanta, but there are some things I do like about the Falcons here in this spot. For one thing, I really don't think that this is a good thing for the Saints that they're coming off of the bye. The interrupted rhythm, they get Drew Brees back, then he has another week off, so he wasn't able to get into rhythm personally. And on the bye, things could not have gone better for the Saints. Green Bay loses. Minnesota loses. They've got that head-to-head meeting with the 49ers to where, in a lot of respects, they control their own destiny for the number 1 seed there in the NFC. And who knows, maybe San Francisco trips up this week against Seattle, but the Saints had a lot of good things happen while they were on their bye week. I think there's a fat and happy element here to this Saints team that maybe they don't come out with that killer instinct that they need in order to get a lot of margin here on a Falcons team that should have Matty Ice back for this one. They did get a pretty good effort from Matt Schaub in that comeback a couple of weeks ago, but it's still going to be nice for them to have Matt Ryan back. Maybe the offensive line got a little bit healthier over the bye week. Obviously, it's a strange situation for Atlanta because they didn't fire Dan Quinn. And ultimately, they had every reason in the world to fire Dan Quinn. But for some reason, they didn't. I don't know if Arthur Blank didn't want him fired. I don't know if the GM didn't want him fired, if the team stood up for him. But for whatever reason, they didn't fire Dan Quinn. And perhaps the tanking thing, maybe they feel like Dan Quinn gives them the best chance to lose out and get, maybe a Chase Young or somebody like that. But I have to assume that Dan Quinn hasn't completely lost this team. This is the biggest regular season line since at least 2010 for a team with 4 straight wins coming off of a bye. And again, I think this is a difficult spot for the Saints to try and get back into, playing the type of football that they were before that off week, to be in rhythm, to have everything working in perfect harmony. I just think this is a decent spot for Atlanta here. Again, for Atlanta, maybe they fall into the mantra of, hey, let's wipe the slate clean and, see how we do here. A lot of veteran guys on this team, a lot of character on this team. Maybe they rally. And like I said, I think that the Saints, with what transpired last week, with how a lot of things fell in their favor, in that bye week, and even San Francisco struggling with Arizona on Thursday night. something that kind of stands out to them a little bit there too of, this 49ers team is nowhere near invincible. So I think a lot of good things happen for the Saints on the bye that kind of leads to maybe a little bit of overconfidence, a little bit of perhaps complacency. I'll take the Falcons in that offense to keep this thing a little bit closer this week. So Falcons plus 13, another one on my very likely picks list. We jumped to number 18 here, the Detroit Lions. They're plus 2.5 against the Chicago Bears. And I understand it. This is a very square, popular dog. But for the life of me, I can't wrap my head around the Bears being a favorite over any kind of decent team right now. The Bears are just not playing good football. The defense has been fine. The offense has been a train wreck. And the Detroit Lions have played very well overall this season. Matt Stafford is playing great. If the Lions had won some of these coin flip games that they've been in, if they had held on against Arizona, if they had beaten, Green Bay a few weeks ago, if they had won that game against Oakland, which was right there for the taking last week, does Matt Stafford have some MVP consideration? It's a possibility. He's been fantastic. Last week, I was on the Raiders, but I was very fortunate to get that win. The Lions fumbled just outside the red zone. Stafford threw a pick in the end zone. The Lions got stopped on the goal line at the end of the game. That was 3 scoring situations. Could have been, 17 points for them. And they got nothing out of those 3 trips deep into Raiders territory. So maybe this is a buy low spot on the Bears, but I just don't see it. And I understand that there are some concerns about Detroit's defense. I mean, the Raiders had, 6.6 yards per play or something last week. But the Raiders are scheming really, really well. John Gruden's doing great with Derek Carr. They've really started to get on the same page. That offense is humming right along. I don't see the Bears having that same level of offensive success. I can't see this Bears team being able to put a lot of points up on the board. I think Detroit has a better chance of putting points up, even with that stout Bears defense that is still top 5 in the league in yards per play. But I think that this line is undeserving on the Bears side. I know that they're at home, and I understand that, maybe Soldier Field is worth 2.5 or 3 points. Maybe the Lions are a favorite on a neutral field, and I think they should be. They are playing better football right now than the Chicago Bears. So this is a fade of the Bears more so than a buy on the Lions. And again, this is a consensus dog. It's always scary when you get consensus dogs, but I just don't think the Bears are trustworthy. I don't think the Bears offense is any good. I don't think Mitch Trubisky is very good. And the Lions don't have the personnel that the Patriots have had. But what do we know about the Patriots? We know that they are very good against first and second year quarterbacks. They're very good against guys that don't really read the game particularly well, don't really do good reading defenses. Mitch Trubisky obviously doesn't do those things well because the Bears aren't moving the football this season. So give me the Lions here, plus 2.5 as the last of my very likely picks here. So again, the Chiefs will be making the card minus 3.5, Falcons plus 13, and Lions plus 2.5 in the very likely picks category. Move over to the leans here, and we start with number 6, the Buffalo Bills. And I understand the reservations about the Bills. They haven't played a great schedule. There are a lot of questions still about Josh Allen, but everyone's talking about the Bears are over, or the Bills are overrated, and Bills this and Bills that. What indication do we have right now that the Cleveland Browns can move the football against this Buffalo defense? I don't think we have one. The Browns have squandered all of this talent that they have on offense. And I will say it right now. Being someone in Cleveland, being a Browns fan, I don't think Baker Mayfield is very good. I don't think Baker Mayfield is the franchise quarterback that he was built up to be. Now, maybe this is a coaching thing. Maybe it's a schematic thing with Freddie Kitchens. Maybe the arm talent is really, truly there for Baker. But here's the difference between the NFL and college football. In the NFL, you have to throw guys open. In college football, guys get open and you throw them the football. In the case of the Browns, this isn't all about, Odell not getting touches. This isn't all about trying to spread the ball around everybody. Part of this is about the fact that Baker Mayfield can't throw guys open. Baker Mayfield's ball placement skills are below average. And maybe it's a timing mechanism thing with all the skill position guys that the Browns have, but there's a disconnect here. There really, truly is. And I just don't think that Baker Mayfield has grasped some of the NFL concepts, some of the things you have to do to be a successful NFL quarterback. And one of them is ball placement. You've got to create explosive plays by throwing the receiver open. You've got to put it in front of his hands so you don't get those tipped interceptions. Because in college football, a guy gets open, the DB might be 2 or 3 yards behind him. In the NFL, he's a half yard to a yard behind him. The windows that you have to throw into are so much smaller. And Baker Mayfield has not been accurate. And the Bills' defense is very good. They're very strong in the secondary. They got good cover corners. I don't think that this is a great matchup for Baker Mayfield. Add in that now Kareem Hunt coming off suspension for the Browns. So they're already not effectively using Nick Chubb in third down situations. They take him off the field. Everybody knows they're going to throw the football or Dontrell Hilliard's going to run into the line of scrimmage. Now they're going to try and work Kareem Hunt into the equation. And with Kareem Hunt being John Dorsey's guy, even after Kareem Hunt caught on video assaulting a woman, they still go and sign Kareem Hunt when they have Nick Chubb, don't need Kareem Hunt. That's a John Dorsey guy. John Dorsey is going to push for Kareem Hunt to get a decent amount of the snaps here in this game. I think that throws the Browns out of their rhythm, if they even have an offensive rhythm to begin with. Baker Mayfield saying this week to the media, I got to force the ball to OBJ. What? I mean, okay, fine. Is he going to make plays one-on-one? He could. He should. He's one of the game's best and most talented wide receivers. But what are you going to do? Throw a bunch of jump balls to OBJ? How effective is that offense going to be? Maybe it's a better plan than what they've already done. But I got to say, and I know people much smarter than me are looking to take Cleveland here. A lot of people looking to fade Buffalo. A lot of people saying, look at what this line suggests, that a 2-6 Browns team is favored over a 6-2 Bills team. I understand all of that. But as somebody who's watched the Browns very closely, as somebody who's paid very close attention to Baker Mayfield over his 2 years as a starter, I don't see it here for Cleveland. I don't see this being the turning point for them. And it's been, 3 or 4 straight games that people have been calling for the head of Freddie Kitchens. Not that I can blame him. Also, this game, Bills +3, better than 2.5 that's out there in the market. I'm talking myself into the Bills here, and I know it's going to be the square public side. I know it's going to be against the quant side. It's going to be against the people that just kind of think that the Browns could turn this around. I don't know if they can. I just, from everything I've seen, I don't know if they can. Now you've got Olivier Vernon out for the Browns, so Myles Garrett's going to get more double teams. Josh Allen is a mobile guy. He can get around, can evade the rush. I don't think a lot of things set up well for the Browns here. And if they win and their talent comes together, so be it. I get burned on it. I don't see the Browns putting the complete package together here. The Bills +3 on my leans list. Again, maybe talking myself into this one a little bit, but Bills +3 on my short list here for this weekend. Another 3-point dog here, the Minnesota Vikings, number 24 in the SuperContest rotation order. They take on the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday night. I wish Adam Thielen was in the lineup for Minnesota. Minnesota would be a play if Adam Thielen was going to go. We'll see what the injury report looks like on Friday. Picks don't have to be in until Saturday morning. But Brad Powers talked about it on yesterday's edition of Bang the Book Radio, where, Mike Zimmer has just been so good in these games outside of the NFC North. And Jason Garrett has really struggled in games outside of the NFC East. Mike Zimmer is an elite preparer for games. Jason Garrett is not. So the Vikings have a built-in advantage here with a better head coach. Kirk Cousins is playing well. Dalvin Cook playing well. The Vikings working in some different guys at running back. Amir Abdullah caught a touchdown last week. Alex Madison's been playing pretty well. The Vikings have a good defense. They can stop the run. They can stop the pass. Dallas has not played a great slate of opponents here, and they haven't beaten any above-average team except for Philadelphia, and Philadelphia has been very up and down this season. The Cowboys have not fared well against above average teams this year. They haven't even played a whole lot of them. Minnesota is an above average team. Last week's loss to the Chiefs hurts a little bit, but now you can go on the road, get it back in that Sunday Night Football situation. I like the Vikings here +3. And right now, I think there's a decent chance that my card is Chiefs, Falcons, Lions, Bills, and Vikings. But I got one more lean for you here. It is number 26, the Seattle Seahawks, +6.5 against the San Francisco 49ers in Monday Night Football. And again, this is a Bills type of situation where a lot of the quant crowd, a lot of very smart, metrics-oriented people out there want to fade Seattle. They hate the defense. Seattle is an overachieving team at 7-2. I will completely agree with that. But Russell Wilson is such an X factor. The guy takes great care of the football. He makes plays, wills the team to wins. Again, I'm not asking for Seattle to win this game. I'm asking for them to lose by, 6 points or fewer. And one of the things that's really hard to do in the NFL is get margin without getting extra possessions. The 49ers might need an extra possession or two here, and Russ generally doesn't give those up. And again, it's a public dog. Those are very scary. I love San Francisco. I love San Francisco's defense, but much like I talked about many times over with New England, and of course it finally hit last week against Baltimore, even though I wasn't involved in that game, progression has to come at some point. Teams are scoring on less than 20% of their possessions against the 49ers. San Francisco has only allowed 102 points. Did Arizona find something in that Thursday night game that other teams can use? And if they did, I would trust a guy like Pete Carroll to find it. I would trust an improv quarterback like Russell Wilson to find it. So I think the Seahawks +6.5 is not a bad look here. Again, they are a public dog, and you've got the quant and the sharp crowd on the other side taking San Francisco, but I trust in Russ. I do. So my list of leans here is the Bills +3, Vikings +3, Seahawks +6.5. The very likely picks, and again, this pick will be on the card, Chiefs -3.5, followed by the Falcons +13 and the Lions +2.5. You can check out the article on Saturday over at BangTheBook.com with our picks for the Super Contest, also our picks for the Circa Million, the consensus, the top 5 consensus, the pick counts for those 2 Vegas handicapping pools on Saturday over at BangTheBook.com.